off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for joining us for another recap of the Book of Boba Fett. Even though I feel like I should call this show like the Many Saints of Tatooine or something, like very gangster
That would
heavy
be a
episode.
way better. Yeah,
But Cordy, how's it going?
it's going good. I liked Ron and I were just talking about how much we liked this episode a lot better. Have kind of better hopes. It's not just like, I mean, the first episode, I'm like, oh, this would be enjoyable to watch in passing, but now I actually was like into this episode,
Right.
so it's not like as stereotypical Star Wars where it's just like, okay, well, I'll watch, but
But before we get too heavy into it, for those like watching, like hold up the mug, hold up the mug. Yeah, they have to see it. Yeah,
my dad got me this as a gift. This is a joke gift.
Pretty great joke gift. But yeah,
my dad is like the biggest Star Wars nerd you need to meet. So,
but yeah, you went into it a bit. So just get into a bit more about just your general thoughts about this episode. Obviously, you liked it. Just touch a little bit on like why you liked it in comparison to the first episode.
I'm very much enjoying the arc of what are they called? The Raider.
The Tusken Raiders, yeah.
The Tusken Raiders. I am so enjoying that arc. I find that arc to be so interesting just based off of what we have seen from them before, just like very just vague villain species, but it's nice to see them flesh out different Star Wars species, and this is one of the ones, I think I said it in the chat, where I was like, okay, this is where I could really see how much George Lucas ripped this lore from Dune. Yeah. I was like, because there's a part of the episode where I was like, they mentioned spice, and I was like shocked that they went there with Dune being back. I was like, can they change the
so
word?
Close, right?
I'm like, but they actually used the word spice, but I'm like, dang, right. the Dune references are there. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. The people that are over it now can't help that he stole a whole, ripped the whole book. But I love the Tusken Raiders arc, and even I guess what we'd say is present now is more interesting. I guess I'll go ahead and say it with Jabba's cousins being in the mix. That was very cool to see. And were they canon before? Because I know Jabba had family members, but I didn't know he had like twin cousins. Because I know he had he had an uncle in one of the animated shows. But I think they added that because I think that's new, but it's still very cool. And the CGI for them looks great to me.
Yeah, it looked really good. Yeah.
Compared to the trilogy in the 90s. they looked very good, and I thought that was very cool. It made it way more interesting. Even the whole bit with the assassin and talking to the mayor, that was very interesting. I don't think I was like bored at all during this episode. So, but still, my favorite is definitely the arc of the Tusken Raiders. I find that so fascinating and such fantastic storytelling. I love it.
Yeah, so I'm going to pick on D here a little bit because she knew nothing about Dune going forward, and I'm not saying like I know a lot about Dune, but I like know enough to like warn her. So she watched Dune, and her first comment to me was like, "Oh, this is like Star Wars," which I was like, "You got to order.
It's the other way around."
but yeah, like you said, like this, we're really starting to see like how heavily George, I was about to say George Lopez, not George Lopez, George Lucas. How heavily he was influenced by
Ron was woke up at 3 to a commercial. That's what happened.
That's like etched into my brain. That
into your brain. Anyway.
But yeah, you see how heavily he was influenced. And one of the questions we had last week was whether they would like find the balance of the two timelines, and I think they hurt us because they got it right. Like they spent more time in the past than they did in the future, but
which is
the
way more
future was,
interesting still to
well, I'm
me.
not gonna
But
say the
the
future,
future,
excuse
yeah.
me. Yeah, the present was still like way more interesting. So let's start there. So the assassin, like we're trying to figure out who sent the assassin, and dropping dropping the assassin in the pit for Rancor is pretty funny because we know
Oh, that was
Rancor
so
isn't there
funny.
anymore.
That's like that good Star Wars. That's that good Star Wars humor because they were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
he's never going to say anything. He's never talk." But as soon as, and then she's like, "It's
Uh-huh.
empty."
Yeah,
She's
we
like, "You
know, and
coward."
obviously we know Rancor isn't there anymore. So yeah, that was pretty funny. So if the mayor says the assassin wasn't sent by, you know, by him or it's, excuse me, I'm don't know which gender the mayor is.
I'm
So
gonna say him because
so
that was the director behind that. The
okay, okay.
director's the mayor.
Ah, okay, okay, cool.
Yeah,
So
he's apparently gonna have like 5 cameo roles this whole series.
oh, that's nice. Okay.
I love that.
So
Anyway,
so yeah, obviously like Jabba's cousin sent the assassin, right?
the
Because
cousins,
the
yeah.
yeah, because the assassin speaks like and I forget the language that the Hut speaks is like Huttonese or whatever, but the
Mhm.
assassin like speaks there, right?
If it's a corny name, yeah, we like this was like I think that was something that was conceptualized by George Lucas, so it's got to be something like
Uh-huh.
Huttonese,
Right.
something totally just like oh god, this is corny. Then it's George Lucas's.
Yes, yes. So yeah, that's a carryover for George Lucas. So this is when I thought like, oh yeah, we're getting like heavy like The Wire Soprano vibes because like here we
Just
think
spicy.
Boba
I
Fett
love
has
it.
claimed his empire, but Jabba's cousins pull up and they're like, nah, this is our throne. So where do you think
And they have like
that
a will. They
storyline is
even have
going?
like the will
Yeah.
and all that. Oh, I think it's gonna be a huge dispute.
Hmm.
I think
I
it's gonna
mean,
be
because in a
really.
way
I
they
think it's
aren't
gonna be a lot
wrong,
of.
right?
They're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like it belongs to them. It probably would be better run by them
Yeah.
too at this point. So, I like how they had like whatever it's called, the litter. They finally like show the payoff of how
Hmm.
everyone just like stops and the power that it does
Hmm.
have. But oh my god, those poor whatever species they were having to carry both of them on there
They
because
don't
they're
get
both
paid
kind of
enough.
smaller. They're both kind of smaller than Jabba, but like together they look like they're
But
like
combined,
collectively they're Jabba size. So it's just like
and I do like
they have
giving,
where's OSHA?
yeah.
The
Yeah,
galactic OSHA.
they are endangering themselves carrying two huts at once. But I do like how they gave like personalities to Jabba's cousins because you could tell like the you could tell the the female hut was kind of like, nah, let's kill him right now.
And he's like, no, no,
But the male
no, we
hut
have
was
to
like
be
more
smart.
pragmatic, right? Right, right.
I
So I
love
do
it. And I
like that
like
they
how they
gave the
had like the
personalities.
face tattoo and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. Like I found that I was like, I want to know more about their culture because like the
Mhm.
only like we only know of that family. So I just like a little tiny characteristics like that was really cool.
Also, one thing that I guess has been made canon now, and I've like seen this in like comic books, but I'm not like very familiar. The also I'm gonna put on my Dr. Umar hat here. Why does the black Wookiee have to be evil? Why does the
He's in
black
the
Wookiee?
comics.
Yeah,
But
he's in
he
the
apparently
comics.
he's
Yeah.
like so apparently what happened, I forgot his whole name, but Black is in his name too. But
Come on.
I'm not joking. I'm not joking.
No, I believe you.
But he apparently was like forced to like captured and forced a gladiator fight and is like one of the best bounty hunters in the entire galaxy. So like he's a badass, like a certified badass. So he's a huge deal. So to see him, that was like and they made him look so cool.
Yeah, he does look
So
cool. He does
but
look
you're
cool.
right. It's like why is that but that was whoever wrote the comics. But oh,
Yeah.
I don't know how to say his like Black I can't pronounce it, but it's a bunch of art. Bat Kersantin or something, but Black is literally the first part of his name.
Like, come on now.
But he's very
This is like
cool.
this is like C.S. Lewis and like the Color Men, which is basically the colored man. But yeah,
Yeah.
like why does he have to be black? But anyway, I'll step off my soapbox. But yeah,
Who
that's going to
wrote
be
the
yeah.
comics?
Who wrote this? But yeah, that's going to be a pretty cool thing because obviously in the present day there's going to be a fight over the throne. But also, I want to ask you this too. Like, what's obviously besides like just killing Bill Fortuna because he didn't like him? Like, what's Boba Fett's like motivation to want to rule in the first place? Like, why does he want this? Like, that's what I guess I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, he is just a morally great character, so I guess to him it's just about like money. He doesn't seem like super power hungry. I feel like he just kind of like he just killed him because it's like, well, I guess this is how I have to do now, But he doesn't want to give it up because that's a sign of weakness.
But he doesn't even seem interested in the money because, like, there's a way, like in the first episode, there's a way he could have gone about things, and he looked surprised when they gave him like the helmet for full of money. So I guess, that's what I want to see more
Maybe
of
it's
going
out of
forward. Like, yeah,
obligation.
yeah,
Maybe he feels
yeah. I
it's
want
out
to
of
see like
obligation
purpose.
because it's like by law since he killed him that he has to take over. But then he
Yeah,
also didn't relent to the Jabba twins, but that also would be a huge sign of weakness.
that too. Yeah, because
So
they probably would have killed him anyway if he was just like
yeah, they would have
oh
killed
you
him. Mm-hmm.
like oh you're a punk, so let's just kill you anyways. So, all right,
But yeah,
but yeah, now
I'm sure we'll
let's
get more information.
yeah, I think so too as this unrolls. But now let's go into the past, which is pretty fascinating for like several different reasons. We really get into the Tusken Raiders and one thing I have um I can't say that has like aged poorly about the Tusken Raiders is obviously like the way like we're trying to like bring like real world like basically like indigenous cultures into like
Yeah.
science fiction lore and we don't really honor them, but this episode's really like fleshes them out like
Mm-hmm.
you said and really honors them and gives them like cool like
Like they're
rituals
not
and
just like
cool like
savage,
customs. Right,
which
right,
is like a
like we learned that
stereotype
they
of
have a code.
indigenous people. Yeah, and that they're
Right.
tribes, and they're like, well, yeah, we don't. Our tribe doesn't do that, but there's others that do,
Mhm.
and we're not
Right,
one of
right.
them. We're not a yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. And like I said, I'm just kind of glad that they're fleshing out because all we really know about them is they killed Anakin's mom. That's all we really
Right.
know. So I think it's really interesting just to give them more personality than that.
Mhm. So yeah, I really like everything they did with this. It first starts with because also we don't get like much information about like their fighting style either. We just like in the like in the past like we just see them like swinging and hitting people, but like we learned that it's almost like an
Mm-hmm.
art form, like a martial art, the way they fight, and they're teaching Boba to do this, and you see them slowly like respect Boba Fett over time, and yeah, that's cool to see too.
And he's like sitting with the leaders, and that
Hmm.
whole bit with the lizard was like I was like this is like the Matrix.
Right?
Like, it
Yeah,
reminded
that
me
was
of like
pretty
that
trippy.
scene with the Matrix. But I'm like somehow worse.
Hmm.
It's like they saw that
Yeah,
scene where like that centipede thing, and I was like, how can we make this more uncomfortable? Let's make it go up the nose. I was like, that's
yeah. I hate
like the
seeing
new
things
form of
climb up
COVID
noses.
testing is just have a lizard go up your nose and see and look at the COVID. But I thought that was very cool. Again, I'm like, this is a kind of a a rip from Dune thing too, where he's having like these
Yeah,
visions.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think that's why they brought the lizard in is to make it different. Because it would have been a drug, but then they're like, let's just make it a lizard. Because no one would have done that.
yeah. Now, if the Tusken Raiders would have had like a Reverend Mother, and he would have had to put his hand into a box or something, we'd be like, "Hey, come on now, this is a little
We
too
don't
much,
know.
a little
That
too
could have been a
close."
Reverend Mother. We don't know their gender or anything.
I mean,
So
yeah,
who
that
knows?
is true.
But
Yeah,
it
that
was
is
a
true.
box. It was a box.
Mhm.
But it just had a lizard that climbs up your
Yeah.
nose. I literally went like this. I was like, I'm fucking this up.
Yeah, I hate seeing things go up noses, but Courtney, I have a question for you. Has there ever been a drive-by in Star Wars ever.
I feel like there has to have been. I feel like if we ever got like a Han like series, not a movie, but a series, I feel like that's where we would see that.
Well, we kind of I had to ask because we kind of got one with the train. I'm
Yeah,
not
we
gonna
did.
lie,
It felt like
that did kind
when
of
I
make
was
me
watching
laugh.
it. No, it made me think it was like the GTA mission. I'm like, this is almost
Uh-huh.
identical to a Grand Theft Auto mission.
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
San Andreas. It's like all you had to do was follow the train, Boba.
So obviously the speed train becomes like the central focus of this episode, and Boba Fett earns their respect by saying like, "Hey, I'm gonna go out here, and when I return in the morning, I'm gonna have a way that we can stop this train." So he and this goes into like the callback from A New Hope, which admittedly I'm not like knowledgeable of. Like someone told me about this, so I was like actively looking for it. But when he goes to the train
Hmm.
station, the couple there, that's a deleted scene from A New Hope. So yeah, cool callback. But yeah, it leads to Boba Fett training the Tusken Raiders, and then this huge train heist, which was like probably one of the coolest action sequences we've seen in like these extended Star Wars shows.
Probably
And
yeah, like
I
in the Star Wars show type.
yeah,
Like I thought it was very cool.
and I swore never to watch Solo, but apparently it's like really close to the one in Solo. Have you seen Solo?
I didn't want to subject myself to that.
Okay, I'll probably check it out, like just that scene in particular. But apparently
Just like
it's
fast
really close to
forward
that.
through it until you see
Right.
a train. Because
I
I've
might
heard
just
it's
watch the
an awful
YouTube clip.
movie.
Yeah, I
I've
bet
heard
it
it's an
is.
awful movie.
No reason for that to exist. So
There's
yeah,
none.
like that was really
I'm
cool
sorry.
seeing that
I just
heist.
you reminded me that existed.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm gonna be like seeking financial compensation for reminding me of that trauma.
Solo is like mesothelioma. Yeah. But no, I'm sorry for bringing for invoking those bad memories.
That was a bad
But yeah,
phase.
but yeah, once he earns their respect, like we get into something like really cool. Like we get to see him pretty much brought into the like basically he gets adopted as a Tusken Raider. Like we see him wearing the
Hmm.
garb that he was wearing when he showed up in
That was a
Mandalorian,
very
which
cool
is
moment. Yeah.
very cool moment. Yeah.
Oh,
And
when he
then we
started it, I
see
was like, oh, that's
yeah,
so cool to
yeah.
see him in, and just the actor's so perfect. He's one of the ones just no one could ever play Boba in my mind except for
No, no.
him. Nobody.
And to me it's kind of and I feel like he had a part to play in this too. Like it's very much like a very important thing to have an actor who is from like this indigenous like Pacific culture,
He's
like
like
this strong
half
culture.
Maori, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
He's from New
and to have him
Zealand.
playing this role, yeah. So it's
And
really
have like
cool
a
to see
main
that because
character be a person of color in Star Wars film was very cool.
yeah, because I'm inclined to believe a lot of that made its way to the show, like the dance they were doing by the fire, like that was like really cool.
Yeah,
Like you could,
it gave
yeah,
Pacific Islander vibes. I may be wrong. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I'm like this kind of is reminiscent of some things that I've seen
yeah,
of Pacific Islander culture.
yeah, and I wouldn't be shocked if like that was like by design. I really think that was a very neat touch because like what we know about this culture was only given to us by you know, a white man who was doing his best. So we thought they were savages, but it's really cool to see that they really have a code. They really have this, expensive culture and they have these customs and yeah, like it's nice. It's cool to see that Boba Fett has been like brought into the fold and he's one of them now. Like the scene where he was like crafting the weapon, like I really thought that was cool because you could tell like so much went into that. At first I was like, how the hell is this twig gonna become one of those weapons? But but then I saw it and yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, and just I don't know because it's Star Wars. I don't know if humanizing is the right term, but just having them talk, and them just saying, kind of explaining like their
Mhm.
history and how they're like, yeah, but outworlders, ever since they've been here, we can't defend ourselves. And things
Mhm.
like that. It's just kind of, like a definite point to indigenous culture. But
Yeah.
I thought it was very cool to have for Boba, just that dialogue, and they can't really, they know what the other one's saying. They're kind of using sign language, almost their own sign
Mhm.
language. I'm like, that's very cool. So it's just, this is why it's nice to have like more diverse people
Mhm.
behind, because I'm like, I wonder who thought to do the sign language, to develop that. But just things like that, they stick out, and that's why it matters, not just for diversity points, but it makes for much better storytelling, better than just like senseless savages. So
Yeah, and you ultimately you just like reached the point I wanted to make. Like I know, and this is gonna go like on a tangent a bit, but when people talk about like adding people of different walks of life to like this stuff, like even though like that was I always like the social justice warrior argument in particular with Star Wars, considering that this is apocalypse now out of space. But anyway, so but when you add like people of different cultures to like this stuff, like you said, it makes the storytelling like much more rich because you get those things that seep into the story and you get an episode like this that shows like basically these aren't just like a species and we just see them and then they go away. Like they actually it kind of makes them like, okay, like this is cool. Like I want to know more about them now. So I
more,
really
yeah,
think it's
I'm like,
cool
I
to
want to know
expand them.
more about the Tusken Raiders. Like, how long have they been here? Are they
Hmm.
indigenous to this planet? Or are they?
Hmm.
It's very cool. Also, John Boyega deserved better. Now that we're on
Oh
this
yeah.
rant, especially with Star
Yeah.
Wars, like that is infuriating. But anyway,
Anyway.
um, with something which is lore as deep as Star Wars, that was ripped from Dune, that has most of its lore from Islamic culture. You
Hmm.
have to involve people of color, because white people
You
did
have
not
to.
create this. You like
No.
you that didn't, because Dune is what if Islam came out of Scotland? That's all
Hmm.
what Dune is.
Hmm.
So because Star Wars was ripped from Dune, and it's essentially a lot of the same. You got to involve people of color, because that's their culture that the story is being inspired from. So
But yeah, I guess like to kind of like bring this full circle. So like what do you want to see going forward with like both timelines, both like the Tuscan Raider timeline and the present day timeline? Like what do you hope to see going forward?
I'm curious as to how he got from one timeline to the other.
Mhm.
And I want to see. I don't know. I feel like something bigger is going to happen with the Tusken Raiders, and I want to see where they converge, because I feel like they're going to have to converge at some point. And I want to see what happens. I want to see more of the Hutt twins, because that to me is
Mhm.
probably one of the, besides the Tusken Raiders, is probably the most fascinating. And we only saw them for 5 minutes, and that's already one of the most fascinating things about the series to me. So I'm pretty sure the twins were not canon before this, but
No,
very
I don't
excited to
think so.
see how that politics plays out.
Yeah, because not even like stature wise, but they're like they're like a very big presence. Like they pull up and they're like, nah, this is ours.
You're like,
So that's going
and
to
then they
be
have like
yeah, so
the
so yeah, that's going to be pretty exciting. But also, I'm with you. Like, I do want to see like how he eventually like stepped away from the Raiders to like forge his own path once again, and also where do they come in because this isn't the last we've seen of them, and knowing what we know about these Disney shows, of course, like there's going to be a big battle at the end, and like the Raiders are probably going to come rushing in or something like that. Like I don't think we'll, at least I hope we aren't gonna just kill that tribe off entirely. But anyway,
I would be
I
so
feel
pissed,
like
especially if you're alluding them to
yeah.
indigenous people. The cool thing would be to give them autonomy over their own planet again, in some way
Mhm.
of letting them handle the government. That would be super cool. Having them die, not cool.
Not cool. Not
Not
cool at all.
cool. Not the vibe. Letting them, giving
Y
like land back in Star Wars form. So land back is like a whole thing with indigenous cultures right now, giving them the land back, like Hawaii, Puerto Rico. So like a land back kind of statement from Star Wars would be very cool. So
y You know what? I think you kind of like unintentionally answered like my question at the beginning, like
Oh,
what might be his motivation. Like maybe he's going to be an ambassador for those people of the
oh,
planet, and like
that's why he wants to do that so he can
yeah,
segue.
yeah. I feel like that might be it. Yeah, and I would
Oh
be
my
cool with that. I
gosh.
would be down with that.
I'm gonna be
Yeah.
insufferable if we're correct. I'm gonna be because I feel like this is not something people would predict. I'm gonna be so insufferable. After we were just burned by the Mephisto thing, we have to be right on
Yeah.
something. We have to be
In
right
our
on
defense, they were
something.
heavy-handed with that in our defense. Like,
They
so
were
that's not
trolling
that's not
us.
yeah.
We
Yeah,
were
they
being
were
trolled.
we were being trolled so hard with that. But yeah, now that I think about it, like,
Anyway.
yeah, because he knows that because of just the nature of like their species and their tribe, like one of them couldn't step forward to like
Especially
lead
that
this entire
leader.
planet. Yeah, but
Like
but
that
but he
we don't know
can.
the leader's name, do we?
Mhm. I don't think we do. No.
So but he seems like very quiet again, just kind of
Mhm.
I want to know more about him, honestly. So I'm like, why can't he kind of run this thing? Who knows?
But yeah, I feel like he's going to be like that ambassador and that buffer because but for like all intents and purposes, he is a Tusken Raider now. So I do think he's going to lead with like their best intentions in mind. And if so, like, hey, that kind of makes sense. I'm with that.
Yeah, I would fuck with that. That would be very cool to see from Star Wars. Again, he's still this morally great character, but he doesn't
Mm,
do things just to hurt people. So I
right.
feel like they, in a way, like even though he was imprisoned with them at first, in a way they
Mm,
saved him. So he's kind of indebted to them in that way. It's like a mutual. It is a
right.
mutual respect at this point. So
Mhm. But yeah, I think that's where we'll stop for this recap. Let us know what you think if you're watching. Like, how do you like the show so far? How does it fall in line with other Star Wars shows?
what do you think it's gonna happen?
And what do you think is going to happen? Yeah. But yeah, so thanks for listening, thanks for watching. If you're watching, these recaps are always going to be this short because like it's not like anything deep to get into, honestly. And most of these
And it's a
episodes are short, but
50-minute episode, so I don't want to. We don't want to spend a 1 minute on each minute of the episode.
right, right. But
This
yeah,
is
so
not.
thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Until next time, peace.